The mind will say, but I will not threaten the sky if the rain arrives late. This is why Krishna speaks of karma and dharma together. Karma is action, movement, consequence. Dharma is alignment, right living, the path of truth that fits your soul. When you act in alignment with dharma, the heart becomes quieter. When you act only to satisfy the mind's hunger, the heart becomes tired. Maybe you have been working so hard not only in life, but in the mind, working to become enough, working to prove something, working to outrun a fear you never named. And the strange thing is, you can run for years and still feel chased, because the mind's hunger is endless when its mind says, more. Pause. When the mind says, not enough. Pause. When the mind says, if only. Pause. And ask softly, not with force, but with sincerity. Who is hungry? Is it the Atman, or is it the mind story of who I am? Sit with that question like a candle in a quiet room. Do not rush to answer. Let the question do its work. Because the mind's hunger begins to loosen when you see it clearly, and you stop treating it as a command. It is a wave. You can let it rise, you can let it fall. You do not have to drown in it. On the battlefield of your inner life, you have been fighting for satisfaction by chasing outcomes, by arranging circumstances, by trying to manage everything so you can finally rest. But rest will not come from perfect control. Rest comes from remembrance. Remember this, my dear soul. You are not here to win the mind's race. You are here to awaken from it. And as you begin to awaken, you may feel something unfamiliar. A quiet space opening inside you. A small distance between you and your cravings. Between you and your fears. Between you and the constant pressure to become. This space is sacred. This space is the beginning of freedom. Remain with it a little longer. Let this understanding settle like dust falling in a sunbeam. And when you are ready, we will go deeper into Krishna's instruction about action, about the fruits of action, and about the peace that arrives when you stop gripping life with the mind. My dear soul, now we step closer to the sentence in the Gita that quietly changes a life when it is truly heard. Not heard by the ears, but heard by the place inside you that has been tired for a long time. Krishna looks at Arjuna in the chariot, with the battlefield breathing around them, and he offers a teaching that does not flatter the restless mind. In essence, Krishna says, you are entitled to action, but you are not entitled to the freedoms, and the heart becomes tired of the constant trade. But when you act as an offering, something inside you relaxes. The pressure in the chest loosens. The breath deepens. You stop living as a beggar at the door of tomorrow. You begin living as a servant of the present. Notice this in yourself. How often you use achievement to quiet a fear? This is why nothing feels enough, because you were using the world to do the job of remembrance. Krishna is teaching you to separate two things that have been tangled together. Effort. You can act with full sincerity and still remain free inside. This is not passivity. This is mastery. And slowly you begin to see the miracle. When the fruit is released, the action becomes lighter. When the action becomes lighter, you can finally do it with your whole heart. And when you do, let's go deeper into what the mind struggles to accept. It was never designed to be satisfied. The mind is in the Gita, Krishna speaks of desire as a fire. The fire consumes what you place into it, but it does not become full. It grows, and therefore more powerful, because your energy is no longer wasted on inner fighting. Your mind is no longer constantly asking, what if? Your become. Hunger says, when they finally. But the Atman is not waiting. The Atman is already complete. The Atman is already here. So when you feel the ache of not enough, return to this. The mind is craving completion from the world, but completion is your nature. You are seeking outside what was never missing inside. This is not a poetic idea. It is a lived shift. And it begins simply. Catch the mind when it grasps. Watch it like you would watch a child reaching for fire. Not with hatred, not with shame, but with awareness. Say softly, I see you, and then bring attention back to Dharma. What is right, what is honest, what is mine to do in this moment? This is the path Krishna opens. Not an escape from life, but a new way of standing inside it. A new way of breathing. A new way of acting. A new way of being. And from here, my dear soul, we are ready to enter the heart of the discourse, the calm, rhythmic voice of Krishna that repeats a truth until the nervous system believes it, until the heart finally unclenches, until the hunger of the mind begins to fade like a storm moving away from the shore. My dear soul, now let the teaching become a steady chant inside you, not as words you admire, but as a truth you lean on when the mind becomes loud, because the mind does not stop demanding simply because you understand. It stops demanding when you stop obeying. It stops demanding when your effort meets circumstance. What you call my result is never yours alone. It is the meeting place of thousands of threads. So why do you suffer? Because you try to claim what was never claimable, because you try to possess what was never yours to hold, because you try to make the river stand still and call it peace. My friend, on this path, look at your tension. It is not only fatigue, it is grip. It is the invisible fist of the mind. The mind grips the future. The mind grips an image of how life must be. The mind grips an identity it fears losing. The mind grips approval, security, certainty. And because it grips, it aches. Because it grips, it trembles. Because it grips, nothing feels enough. So let Krishna's calm assertions wash over you like rain on hot stone. The fruit was never yours. The fruit was never yours. The fruit was never yours. Your task is the seed. Your task is the step. Your worth. Peace begins when clinging ends. Peace begins when clinging ends. Peace begins when clinging ends. This is not a theory. You can feel it in your body right now. When you tighten your jaw, the mind release the fruit. Release the fruit. Release the fruit. Not later, not when life becomes safe, not when the perfect moment arrives. Release now inside your own heart. Release the demand. Release the inner contract you have made with the universe. You may say, but if I release, will I become careless? No, dear soul, you will become clear. Carelessness is acting without awareness. Detachment is acting with awareness, without chains. Detachment is not cold. Detachment is clean. Detachment allows you to love without fear. Detachment allows you to work without self-destruction. Detachment allows you to strive without turning your life into a courtroom. Because you mistake the traveler for the home, you feel homeless. When you mistake the wave for the ocean, you feel fragile. When you mistake the storm for the sky, you feel trapped. This is why nothing feels enough. Because you were trying to build a temple of peace on the shifting sand of thought. Now return to the chariot. See Krishna holding the reins. Feel the horses, the senses, pulling toward pleasure and away from discomfort. Feel Arjuna's trembling, the human trembling you know so well. And then feel the steadiness of the charioteer. That steadiness is available to you, not by forcing the horses. Offer your work. Offer not obey. When the mind says, not enough, do not argue. Simply return to the truth. I will act, but I will not cling. I will serve, but I will not demand. I will love, but I will not possess. I will walk, but I will eat each hour of your day, because the mind will return again and again with its old hunger. And Krishna's wisdom is not a single moment of insight. It is a practiced remembrance. So let us speak of devotion, not as ritual alone, but as the inner orientation that frees you from the exhausting need to be enough for the lesson in surrender. And in this, The hunger changes shape. It loses its sharp teeth. It becomes quieter because you are no longer acting to fill a hole. You are acting to express alignment. Krishna's world is not a world where you escape responsibilities. One small offering made without clinging. This is how karma becomes freeing instead of binding. This is how action stops being a desperate attempt to fill the emptiness and becomes a devotion that expresses inner truth. And let detachment become your gentle companion, not your cold armor. Detachment means you stop squeezing life. You still hold it, but with open hands. You still care, but without turning care into panic. You still plan, but without worshipping the plan. You still try, but without tying your identity to the result. Because your identity is not a result. Your identity is not a role. Your identity is not a moment. Your identity is the consciousness that remains through every moment. When you remember this, you begin to live differently. You begin to enjoy without anxiety. You begin to work without self-destruction. You begin to love without the constant fear of loss. You begin to accept change without feeling annihilated by it. And even when pain comes, it comes as weather, not as a final verdict on your worth. So let me offer you a simple way to live this teaching each day. When you wake before the mind begins its counting, sit for a few breaths and return to the chariot. Feel the reins in your hands. Turn to the breath as if it is a sacred rope pulling you back from the cliff of overthinking. The breath is always in the present, and in the present the hunger is weaker. The hunger is strongest in imagined futures and repeated pasts. But by it, you can remember, I am here, I am alive, I am held. And at night before you sleep, do not review your day like a judge. Review it like a devotee. Offer what you did. Offer what you could not do. May you strive without self-hatred. May you face uncertainty without surrendering your peace. May you remember the Atman when the mind forgets. May you return again and again to the quiet truth that was never missing. And now let the last instruction be simple. Let go and walk your path, not as one who is desperate to arrive, but as one who is already held. Sit with this truth when the mind becomes restless. Return to it when the hunger rises. Remain with it a little longer, and let silence finish what words can only begin. My dear soul, come closer, not with your feet, but with your attention. You may not know why you clicked this, why your heart leaned toward these words. You may have only felt a quiet tiredness, the kind that cannot be slept away, the kind that lingers even when life looks fine from the outside, a tiredness that says, I have tried, I have achieved, I have distracted myself, I have improved myself, and still, something inside remains hungry. Do not judge yourself for that hunger. Do not shame it, and do not rush to silence it. The hunger of the mind is not a sign that you are broken. It is a sign that you are waking up. In the Bhagavad Gita, the battlefield is not only a place of arrows and armies. It is also the inner field where your thoughts clash, where your wishes collide with your fears, where your identity wrestles with the unknown. And like Arjuna, you may feel it now, a strange trembling inside, a question that has no simple answer, a heaviness that is not merely sadness, but something deeper, the exhaustion of carrying the world on the shoulders of the mind. You may have noticed it in small moments. You get what you wanted, and the sweetness fades too quickly. You reach a goal, and the mind immediately builds a new mountain to climb. You buy something, and the joy lasts only until the next desire appears. You receive praise, and then you fear losing it. You rest, and still feel restless. You love, and still feel afraid. This is not because your life is insufficient. It is because the mind, when it forgets its source, becomes like a stormy ocean that cannot drink itself full. My friend on this path, you did not arrive here by accident. Every soul arrives when it is ready to listen. Not to more noise, not to more advice, not to more strategies, but to remembrance, to that quiet inner remembering that says, there is something within me that cannot be satisfied by the world because it was never made of the world. The mind is a chariot that moves quickly. It can take you from one desire to another in a single breath. It can paint a future, replay a past, and create a like enough. But listen gently. Enoughness was never found at the end of wanting. Enoughness is found when the one who wants becomes still. Imagine a lake at dawn. When the water is undisturbed, it reflects the moon perfectly. But if the wind keeps striking it, if the surface keeps trembling, the moon appears broken, scattered into fragments of light. The moon is not broken, my dear soul. Only the surface is restless. So it is with you. There is a light in you that is whole. There is an Atman in you, the inner self, untouched by the rise and fall of your moods, untouched by the praise and blame of the world, untouched by the endless demands of more. Yet the mind ripples, and so you see yourself as fragmented. You see yourself as lacking. You see yourself as someone who must constantly chase. This is Maya, not just illusion as a concept, but illusion as a lived experience. The illusion that says, when you get the next thing, you will finally arrive. The illusion that says, if you lose this, you will be destroyed. The illusion that says, your worth is measured by outcomes. And because you believe the illusion, the mind becomes hungry. Because you believe the hunger, you keep feeding it. And because you keep feeding it, it grows. My friend, let us not fight the mind violently. Let us not declare war on it with harsh discipline. Even on the battlefield, Krishna does not begin by condemning Arjuna. He begins by steadying him. He begins with clarity. He begins with presence. So I begin with you the same way. Breathe slowly, as if you are speaking to the nervous system itself. Let your shoulders drop, just a little. Let your jaws soften. Let the eyes soften behind the eyes. And notice, in this moment you are already alive. You are already here. And the mind may still be demanding something, but you do not have to obey it immediately. You can watch it. You can witness it. This witnessing, this quiet seeing, is the doorway.